Single dad janitor gave his daughter's meal to an old couple not knowing the CEO was watching. The cafeteria was nearly empty that evening, the clinking of utensils echoing faintly against the tiled walls like lonely echoes in a hollow room. Fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead, giving the place a sterile glow. The scent of tomato sauce still lingered in the air from the dinner rush, though the food trays had mostly been cleared away. Daniel pushed his mop aside and leaned against it for a moment, breathing out slowly. His back ached from bending over sinks and hallways all day, but the sight of his little girl waiting for him at their corner table softened the fatigue. Lily sat swinging her legs, too small for the cafeteria bench. Her big brown eyes followed him as if he were her whole world. And in truth, she was his. Danielle slipped into the seat across from her. On the tray between them sat one simple meal, just one plate of spaghetti with 2 forks. It wasn't much. In fact, it wasn't nearly enough for 2, but it was what he could manage on a janitor's paycheck that barely stretched far enough to keep the lights on in their tiny apartment. "Ladies first," Daniel said with a grin, whirling some noodles onto her fork. Lily frowned, suspicious. "Daddy, aren't you hungry?" He chuckled and reached out to ruffle her hair. "I'll eat after you." The truth was, his stomach had been growling since noon, but he had grown used to the feeling. He often skipped meals so Lily wouldn't have to. To him, the sacrifice wasn't a burden up, it was love. Just as Lily was about to lift her first bite, the cafeteria doors creaked open. Both father and daughter looked up. An elderly couple shuffled in, holding hands as if they were afraid that letting go would mean getting lost in the world. Their coats were frayed, their shoes worn thin. The man's face was weathered with deep lines, and the woman's eyes were tired but gentle. They hesitated at the doorway before slowly moving toward an empty table. Daniel noticed the way they leaned on each other for balance. They sat down quietly, scanning the room as if searching for something they couldn't afford. Hunger was written all over them. Lily leaned across the table and whispered, "Dad, you broken bar, they look really hungry." Daniel's chest tightened. He glanced at their plate, at the one meal he had for his daughter. His mind raced. Rent was due. The cupboard at home held little more than bread and a jar of peanut butter. And yet, something deep inside him, something stronger than his fear, tugged at his heart. Kindness, he reminded himself, was free. Before he could second-guess the decision, Daniel lifted the tray and walked to the elderly couple's table. He set it down gently in front of them. "Please," he said softly, his voice steady though his heart was racing, "share this with my daughter and me. We'll be fine." The old woman's lips trembled. Her eyes brimmed with tears as she reached out a fragile hand to touch his. "So in a broken bar, you have no idea what this means to us." The man clasped Daniel's hand firmly, though his own was trembling. For a moment, it wasn't about food, it was about dignity, about being seen, about knowing someone still cared. Back at the table, Lily gave her father a small, brave smile. "It's okay, Daddy. We can have peanut butter sandwiches at home, right?" Daniel nodded, swallowing hard to keep the lump in his throat from spilling into words. "That's right, sweetheart." Neither of them noticed the figure in the far corner. Mr. Reynolds, the CEO of the school's contracted cleaning company, had stopped by and announced that evening. He had intended to make a surprise inspection, expecting to catch laziness or sloppy work. Instead, he witnessed something else entirely. Hidden behind the glow of his laptop screen, he watched as a janitor with almost nothing gave away the little he had. The image etched itself into his mind. The next morning, Daniel arrived at work, expecting nothing more than another long day of sweeping hallways, scrubbing bathrooms, and fixing leaky faucets. The exhaustion of the night before still clung to him, but he carried it with quiet dignity. As he rolled his cart down the hallway, a message came through on the intercom. "Daniel, please report to the main office." He frowned. He had never been called to the office before. Wiping his hands on his work pants, he headed down the corridor, heart thudding against his ribs. Mr. Reynolds was waiting inside, arms crossed, expression unreadable. His sharp suit was a stark contrast to Daniel's faded uniform. "Daniel," he began, his tone firm. Daniel's throat went dry. Had he done something wrong? The CEO's eyes softened. "I was here last night." Daniel froze. Mr. Reynolds stepped closer. "I saw what you did. Giving up your daughter's meal in a broken bar when you didn't have to. That kind of character is rare." Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came. The CEO reached into his briefcase and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the desk. Daniel hesitated before opening it. Inside was a letter, an official job offer, a supervisor position, doubled the pay, health benefits, and tuition assistance for Lily's education. His hands trembled as he looked up. "I don't a broken bar, I don't understand." Mr. Reynolds leaned forward, his voice steady but warm. "I've built this company hiring people with skills, but last night, you reminded me that what matters most is heart, and I need more men like you leading this team." Daniel's vision blurred as tears welled up. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a distant dream. It felt real, tangible, within reach. That evening, Daniel and Lily sat at their small kitchen table in their tiny apartment. It wasn't much, but tonight, the air felt lighter. A pot of soup simmered on the stove, more food than they'd had in weeks. Lily looked up from her bowl. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart?" She tilted her head curiously. "Do you think being kind really makes a difference?" Daniel leaned over, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Yes, Lily. Sometimes kindness doesn't just change someone else's life, it changes ours too." She smiled sleepily and went back to her soup. Later, as he tucked her into bed, the hum of the old apartment heater filled the silence. Daniel sat at the edge of her mattress, watching her drift into dreams. In that quiet moment, he realized something powerful. True wealth isn't measured in money or meals. It's measured in the love we give, even when we have little to spare. And for the first time in a long while, Daniel knew tomorrow would be brighter.